ladies need to be willing to submit to a godly man when you meet one. And if you're not willing to do that, then you got to pray about that.
Yikes. Hello and welcome to FFRF's Ask an Atheist. I'm Leo Costello, multimedia producer at the Freedom from Religion Foundation.
And I'm Deputy Legal Director Liz Cavell, and that was Charlie Kirk at Turning Point USA's 10th Annual Young Women's Leadership Summit last month. It is a 3-day event filled with ultra-conservative speakers grooming young women to vilify feminism and serve a Christian nationalist agenda. This year, our governmental affairs coordinator, Berray, was in Texas attending the event Incognito. She's joining us today to tell us all about it.
Hi, Caitlin. Welcome to Ask an Atheist for the first time. We wanted to have you on because you wrote a great blog on the FFRF website about your experience, and I invite our viewers to check that out. There's a QR code there. You can get that at freethoughtnow.org. I'll also put a link in the video description. And yeah, we wanted to know how or why you wanted to attend this event and what the heck is going on over there.
Absolutely. I'm not sure if I wanted to attend it, but I knew it was important.
And it was in Texas this year. That's where you are, right?
Yes. Yes, I'm based right outside of Dallas, so I was like only 20 minutes away from the event. It was kind of scary.
Well, Caitlin, just start with what is the Young Women's Leadership Summit? I think leadership is doing a lot of work there.
It sure is. It should be the Young Women's Subservience Summit.
What is it? How does it relate to Turning Points USA? Just give us some background before we kind of dive into the dirty details.
Absolutely. So YWLS, I always get that acronym wrong, but it is one of the annual conferences hosted by Charlie Kirk's nonprofit, Turning Point USA. Turning Point really focuses on kind of like organizing and mobilizing this really ultra-conservative political ideology on high school and college campuses around the country. So YWLS is really how they target young women. It's really how they kind of pull women into this movement that really benefits men more than anything. So it's very interesting why so many women buy into this. But
yeah, and as you just saw on that graphic that showed up, they're big into going on college campuses. They have like 3,500 chapters across campuses all across the U.S. And if you're online at all, you've probably seen videos of Charlie Kirk at these campuses just arguing with people and never really trying to have an honest conversation. It's all just trying to get like clips to post online, and it's just very frustrating to watch. And this event was just a continuation of that kind of mentality.
Absolutely. Charlie Kirk really focuses on like getting gotcha moments. Like he's a very good motivational speaker as kind of. He can say a lot of words. They don't really mean much, but he can say them in a way that sounds good.
Yeah, he comes from the Ben Shapiro school of internet commentating. What did you go into this conference expecting? And what shocked you the most coming out of it?
Yeah, so I was pretty familiar with Charlie Kirk going into it. I've seen his TikToks. I knew some of the crazier things he believes, but I don't think I was really prepared of how it was going to really feel being in this crazy packed environment of just this really extreme rhetoric. I'm not completely new to what they were saying. I graduated from a Baptist university with a very conservative student body. I went to church when I was younger. I have conservative family members, but really I've never heard anything so extreme, so targeted towards young women. It was honestly very sad and scary.
Was there anything really specific that really made you what was the first thing that really started to raise the alarms in your brain?
Really, I think Charlie Kirk's wife, Erica Kirk, spoke before Charlie Kirk went on stage, and it was very I release you from the anxieties of feminism. I release you from every lie that is being told to you by Western society and feminism. Here is the answer to all of your anxieties and all your tribulations. It's very, like, they want to frame everything as the enemy. Just feminism is the enemy, and we are the answer to that.
We'll be showing, I think, that clip specifically and some more later on in the show. And thank you for, again, attending this 3-day event and finding clips for us, because none of us wanted to watch hours and hours of these speeches. So we greatly appreciate your work there. But yeah, who spoke at this event? Were there any government officials, or what kind of people were on stage?
Yeah, so Charlie Kirk was the only man that spoke, so everyone else was a woman. There were congresswomen there. There was 2 U.S. representatives, Nancy Mace, who people might know from her hatred for transgender people and like throwing a big fit over restrooms in the U.S. Capitol building. And there was also the local Texas U.S. representative, Beth Van Dunt. She's actually my representative, very sadly, but there's also a state senator from Texas. There was a White House correspondent that works for Turning Point. There were a lot of political activists, more like commentators online, a lot of podcasters, people with supplement brands, makeup brands, like selling their products, like pretty diverse.
And I noticed most of the speakers, if not all of them, had really, really expensive jewelry on. I think there's something to that. They're just like covered with diamonds while they're telling women not to join the workforce.
Absolutely.
I found it really interesting that there were all women speakers, you know, Charlie Kirk surrounding himself with all women speakers, you know, sort of validating his subservience message to women. So just commenting on how super gross that is. But also, you mentioned this in your blog, like the irony, and this, you know, this goes back to all anti-feminist speaker, you know, Phyllis Schlafly and all the rest, which is like, all these women are working women. They're government officials. They ran for elected office, like these massively time-consuming outside the home jobs. You know, they own businesses or they're media personalities. And I'm guessing just from your blog, basically the only themes really explored at this leadership summit are how women should conduct their lives in order to be conservative, subservient, you know, Christian in the way being espoused at the conference.
Being obedient birth givers.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Moms, mothers, birthers, wives, and explicitly not seeking out paid work outside the home.
Or education, for that matter.
Education, career success, any fulfillment outside of subservient roles. I mean, like, can you talk about that? Did any of that contradiction ever come up? Was there any, like, nuance attempted at all in this kind of overarching?
We actually have a really great video clip of somebody, an audience member, asking that question.
I was wondering if you could clarify what the mission of this summit is, because it's a Young Women's Leadership Summit, and all of the women that spoke on that stage today and yesterday were there because they pursued a career. And a key takeaway that I took from most of the speeches, especially on Friday, was that I should, quote, get married and have babies.
Okay, yeah, and again, that's for every one person to decide. Again, I'll just repeat the numbers that I said last night. If you are single by the age of 30, you have a 50% chance of never having kids. And if you are single by the age of 30, you have a 50% chance of not getting married. So you just have to prioritize. You have to aim it. You aim at what is right and what is good. I think the purpose of this conference is whatever takeaway you want to have. It's a resurgence of patriotism, first and foremost, of true femininity, not this toxic type that is being pushed down, of traditional norms and roles that if you want to be a mom, you are a superhero, and we want to encourage you, and we want to promote that, and we want to help you in that regard. But I'll also tell you this. I hope that some of you guys walk away with a warning that a career-driven life is very empty.
Okay, there's so many things there.
I love that there's no attempt to grapple with the women standing behind him.
Yeah.
and the start of that question, which is how do you reconcile all these speakers being here by virtue of their pursuing of a career, which is a very fair question, with the message that you are like trying to indoctrinate all the attendees of this conference with. And there's no attempt to reconcile those things because, of course, they can't be reconciled. I'm going to definitely do my own research on some of those statistics about the age of 30.
Sure. I mean, that's always his. He always goes. It's when he's pressed on it. He always goes, well, it's up to you, but the statistics show you should do what I tell you, kind of a thing. And then, well, not only, but what you were saying earlier, he's inviting all of these women who are career women to go on stage, and then he's saying all of their lives are empty.
Like, literally, I don't understand why there's no attempt to, I mean, it's sad. It just sort of captures the sadness, Caitlin, because obviously, like, if it were as simple as the message being driven by Turning Point USA, right? Then like we all would be like living happily ever after right now, right? Like he's trying to harken back to something that like is not novel. That was the cultural norm in the 50s and forever up until the 60s. Yeah, people have been
trying to put women in that place since
and
as far as we can remember.
If it was the key to like women's happiness and bliss and fulfillment, then I think like no cultural revolutions to the contrary ever would have taken place, and none of these women on stage would have ever pursued the careers that they did. So it's like it's just like so many things in like conservative white Christian nationalist circles, like you can't really look under the hood. It's a simplistic view that really is just kind of hiding or kind of Trojan horsing like a really kind of nefarious like political ideology, really, which is this patriarchal, white Christian nationalist
I'm also
movement.
curious what he thinks is so toxic about feminism when it's just telling women to be themselves and pursue what they want, whether it's to have kids or not. And it's just hypocrisy everywhere you look at this conference. But getting back to the conference itself, Caitlin, what did the audience look like? What kind of people were there? Like how many people were in attendance? And you said in your blog the most disturbing thing was the number of young girls being influenced by the women on stage. Like, what did that makeup look like?
Yeah, definitely. So this was the 10th anniversary of YWLS, and I believe it was their highest turnout ever. There was well over 3,000 women and girls that attended.
Wow.
There was a few men sprinkled throughout the audience, but like the vast majority of it was all women and girls. Mostly college and high school aged. There were like pretty young children, like 5 and up, with their moms and grandmothers, like in big groups. There were a lot of babies, like in strollers with young moms pushing them. And it was mostly white women, like really, I would say that was the majority. There was a significant presence of women of color, but it was mostly white women around my age, early 20s, late teens.
I have to ask, was there childcare?
Oh.
I don't think so, no.
Oh, but Charlie Kirk is so interested in making it easy for us to be mothers.
He does not want your kids to go to daycare. Yeah, he wants you to raise them, definitely.
You wrote in your blog that the women and the girls who attended had a unique look to them. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I really think like social media has played into this, but there's really like a new fashion wave for these young, ultra-conservative, kind of tradwife adjacent look. It's like very long floral prairie dresses, like bright colors, very hyper feminine, very glitz and glam, just like very like, look at how put together I am, look at how feminine, and my cute cowboy boots and Southern patriotism, very, very like niche look. And it was very prominent throughout the entire conference. Everyone was basically dressed like that.
It's interesting to see how the conservative view of how you should dress changes over time. I mean, it doesn't change a whole lot, but I noticed there was a lot of women with dresses where the dresses were above the knee, and that probably would be not okay a number of years ago. But I think they're trying to be sexy, but also conservative at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, because conservative woman has taken on this new iteration where it's like, it's not modest necessarily. I mean, it is still our job to control the urges of men somehow.
Of course.
But it's also our job, of course, to be desirable and sexy and well rested and put together. And like if our only jobs are to be subservient wives and birthers, like obviously being desirable and feminine and like sexy is a big part of that. So I get that. And a lot of that, I agree, Caitlin, is just sort of like, especially as an aesthetic that's like pretty homogenous, has to do with like online, spaces.
Yeah, you'll see it a lot in Charlie Kirk's wife, Erica Kirk's dress. We'll see some clips of her, and her dress looks like a flower exploded on her. Let's get a bit to more of the core messaging and the ideology of the conference. What seemed to be the core message? What do they think it means to be a woman?
So I would say the very core of YWLS was definitely true femininity is motherhood, that you find true feminine happiness and fulfillment by being a wife, by being a subservient wife, and by raising as many children as you can. Charlie Kirk does not want women to enter the workforce. He doesn't want them to be educated. He wants them to be restricted to the home, to stay in the kitchen and the living room and really raise children. He doesn't want them to have any hand outside of the home. And I would say the female speakers that led up to Kirk, like they had varying levels of how extreme they would go, because a lot of them, they don't stay at home. They are congresswomen. They are journalists. They have their own business. So it would be like, I can still work, but I value my life as a mother. I prioritize being a mother. I still work, but being a mother is my main thing. So it's kind of like varying levels of like how extreme each speaker would get, but it was all lead up to Charlie Kirk's message, I would say. I would say it's kind of like when someone enters like Scientology, they don't tell you the craziest stuff first. Right. They tell you like
you don't learn about Xeno day one.
They ease you into it.
Yeah.
They ease you into it.
And the ironic thing is that Charlie Kirk sees his perspective as equality, and he seems to have a really warped perspective on what equality means. Let's hear from him on what he thinks that looks like.
It's very tempting to get into the whole kind of girl-dominant society. You do not want to live in that world. I'm telling you right now, you do not. You want to live in a world where the best of both sexes are equally balanced. Men want just like a return to normal things, like cooking a meal, like serving in like those fundamental ways.
Yeah, serving in those fundamental ways. Equality is learning your place, I guess, somehow.
Right. It's almost like, it's like Animal Farm. It's like we're all equal, but some are more equal than others kind of thing. And it's also just like this obsession with like roles. Like somehow equality is like everyone knowing their role. And if we all have a role, then we're equal, even if your role is to serve me.
How often was religion or Christianity used to defend the demeaning statements about women? Is this purely a religious summit, or were some people
curious about that too?
Or some people taking it from a secular angle as well?
I would say Christianity was the foundation for everything that was set during YWLS. Really, Charlie Kirk was like using the Bible and how he interprets Christian doctrine to be like justification for why he thinks women should submit and stay at home. He really says like God gives women the dominion of the home, that God outlines that women should be mothers and rule over the home, but men should lead outside of society, lead society.
In a weird way, they think they're putting women on a pedestal because they have the ability to give birth. And birth and pregnancy, of course, is like an amazing thing that nature provides, and it's pretty cool to see it happen, but they value pregnancy almost like this. They really see every single like pregnancy as like a miracle, and like you want more and more miracles, and they value having kids so much that Riley Gaines was one of the speakers. She's that woman who has been like a tirade against transgender athletes because some transgender athlete got 3rd place when she got 4th place or something. It like
tough,
it was
Leo.
really like blown out of proportion.
You think?
Yeah. But she's been making a career out of it, of course. And she got a standing ovation just for announcing she's pregnant. And that may seem like who cares, but just take a look at the over-enthusiasm here.
How many men do you know that have this? Oh my goodness.
That goes on for another like 15 seconds. I'm not kidding. And it's just, it's just like this over glorification of that because that's what they think their purpose is.
I have such complicated feelings about this because it's like, it's so perverse because it's like, it is amazing and it is hard and it's sacrificial, but it's also not mystical or supernatural. You know, like it's biological.
It doesn't make you better than someone else.
It's like the idea of like how many men do you know that could give birth? It's like, well, none. Obviously, that's biologically what.
And of course,
happens.
she was using that in the context of making transphobic statements, being like, a man can't do this.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just think it's interesting in the way that like the ability to bear children is the only thing that is special about you. And so we have to like, you know, revere it. And she has tears in her eyes because she's getting this recognition and like this praise and this like standing ovation. And it is amazing. But it's like, it's the only thing she could do or say that would get her that reaction
like
in this world.
You can only imagine the sheer amount of disappointment and depression a woman must go into in the circle if they find out that they're infertile, right?
Yeah. Or, dare I say, after you give birth and you realize Charlie Kirk isn't supporting paid family leave policies.
Oh, yeah.
It's just sort of like, you know, you're on your own. So enjoy your fulfillment, women. You know, nobody's cheering on with a standing ovation. The mom of 3 kids who's doing absolutely everything and all the administrative work of running a family, a household, and raising 3 kids with no support from their spouse, of course, because that's not his realm, and no governmental support, no community support. It's so much more complicated than anything that is given voice at this conference, and that's the part that is really shameful and sad.
Going back to the idea of balance between the sexes, I want to play that clip from the beginning of the show again, and what his wife Erica said alongside that, so you can kind of see how they both approach this.
Young ladies need to be willing to submit to a godly man when you meet one. And if you're not willing to do that, then you got to pray about that.
Don't look at it as I have to. I get to serve my husband. I get to submit unto my husband because he's submitting himself to the Lord. There is a balance, and there's something really beautiful about that balance.
I want to talk about what she said there, because she said there's a balance because she's submitting herself to him and he's submitting himself to the Lord. Shouldn't she also be submitting herself to the Lord? Like, isn't that part of what she is supposed to do as well?
Well, it's that sort of, it's a hierarchy, right? That's what Christian patriarchy is. It's a hierarchy, and that's how you should think of it. And that means you're on the bottom. First comes God, then comes the man, then comes his wife. And
of course, the only one that's made up is the one that's above the man, which means in reality, the men are on top.
Of course, in this earthly coil, absolutely. And it's the framing it as like it's a privilege, right? Think of it as a privilege to serve the one that serves God, and that's the oldest kind of trick in the book for, I don't know, cults, religion, things that you're taking on faith because you believe it'll lead to your own betterment, but it involves your subservience to something or someone else. It's like, think of it as a privilege. Like, you're lucky you get to do this.
Was there anyone else at the summit that expressed that sentiment?
I would say Charlie and Erica Kirk were definitely like the main ones to talk about submission. There was actually a conversation between Erica Kirk and another like political commentator. It was like a mini panel or something, and Erica Kirk posed the question about like, how do you view submission in your marriage? How does that work for you? And the woman, she kind of looked taken aback. She was like, well, I've never really used that word. I more see it as I support my husband. I support what he does. I don't submit to him. So it's kind of like because that's as a woman, when you hear that, you kind of like have like recoil. Like you just kind of inherently like, I don't
as a
like
man,
that.
I would feel that way too if somebody told me I gotta submit to another person. Yeah, it's so bizarre. I want to see a little bit more of Charlie Kirk and Erica Kirk's relationship, because you pointed this clip out to me, Caitlin, and that you can see that Erica is not 100% on board with her husband's frame of mind. So we're going to play this clip and just pay close attention to Erica Kirk.
For everyone that rose the hand of amazing family, how many of you every single day it's your purpose for being is finding a husband then? Every hand should then go up. But I thought you said you wanted an amazing family. You have to prioritize and aim at what you want the most.
You just have to make sure that you find the right.
No, I know, but you have to prioritize it.
I know, but you can't be like a heat-seeking missile where you're like, you see a guy in the back room and you're like, hi. Like you can't, there's like some nuance. I get what you're saying. I understand his sentiment.
From my perspective, she looks clearly really uncomfortable there.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Where to begin?
Yeah.
Well, we might have other clips on this theme of, and Caitlin, you'll have to tell us like whether Charlie Kirk, as the lone man in the room or on the stage, was the most sort of centered on this like finding a husband theme, or if other speakers, women, talked about this. But there was definitely more discussion about how actually forget seeking education and forget, seeking advanced degrees or careers outside the home. The only like seeking that a young woman should do is seeking a husband. And that's the ultimate kind of goal. And like once you found that, like you should retreat back inside the home. Like if you decide to go to college, like the only reason you should be there is to find a husband, right? It's like the classic, 1950s formulation of like, why would a woman ever want an education?
Yeah, we actually have a couple clips related to that. We can play those pretty close together. That's what Charlie Kirk's wife, Erica, talked about why women should value having children over getting a degree.
Your degree fades, but your godliness does not. Don't worry about the school. Don't worry about the job. I actually think that that's some form of feminism, to be so caught up in, I have to have this career, and I have to have this, and I have to that. It's a distraction. The enemy loves that, but it's a total distraction. I think that anxiety is what feminism is all about. Don't delay the eternal for temporary, and do not sacrifice the sacred for the secular. It is not worth it.
It's our first reference to the enemy and them.
And it's framed, right, Caitlin, in this sort of good versus evil, kind of context. Talk about how you experienced like this theme of like seeking a husband, not prioritizing your own degree or education over these like sacred things.
Charlie Kirk was definitely the main driving force behind like, you should be looking for a husband every day. If you're single by 30, you're probably going to die alone and you're going to be miserable. Because like women, they know like telling young girls like you should be focusing on finding a man every single day of your life. It's not going to like resonate with most young women and girls. So like you can see Erica, like the wheels turning in her head, like what Charlie's saying, it's not going to be like palatable to the audience. That's not how you're going to get your message across. It's just you sound stupid.
Yeah, and you can. Another thing I wanted to say about the clip we played earlier is her reaction to being uncomfortable is, she's smiling through it. I don't know about that, honey. And you can see he looked like really like frustrated, like.
Well, yeah.
Like don't talk back to me.
You're not submitting to my mansplaining to all these women how to be happy.
Yes.
No, of course. It's like totally, you can't change the fact that it's 2025 and the past 100 years have happened. And yes, it's alienating to women today who are going through life and independently. Many of us, not by choice. Some support would be great out here, but it's a pretty alienating world and society we've created. So it's like, these, to hear someone say like, raise your hand if you want an amazing family. Raise your hand if every waking moment of your life you spend looking for a husband. All your hands should be up. It's like, that is pretty alienating. To talk about out of touch. Yes, his wife clearly understands that.
Is your goal to own a small business? That every waking moment should be trying to find a small business,
It's like we actually have other things to do.
Yeah. These speakers are all talking about submitting to your husbands and all this, but not one person, I think you said not one person brought out domestic abuse or sexual violence. And especially when they're talking to all these young women and they're being told to follow their husbands. That's a very dangerous path to lead people down. And did there seem to be like any sense of that going badly?
No. No, it's such like, if you even bring up surface level mentions of domestic abuse or sexual violence against women, it's such an obvious blip and fault in the worldview they're trying to glorify of what they're trying to convey. So I understand why it was never mentioned, because when you're telling all these young women and girls you can overtly rely on men, you don't have to be financially independent, you can submit and serve your husband, and that's how you will be happy. It's dangerous. It's very dangerous, and they don't want to point out that danger because it's so obvious.
And again, like it's all just this like, let's turn back the clock. None of this is like breaking new ground. It's like, gee, I wonder how it will go for violence against women if we create a culture where women are totally subservient, have no financial independence, and are completely reliant on their husbands for all of their like civic life and participation. It's like, we already know how that story goes in terms of domestic abuse and violence against women, and how this culture, right, like the ultra conservative Christian patriarchal culture, would handle situations of abuse, marital, spousal violence and rape and all those things, because we've seen it.
And the closest they ever get to touching on that from the clips you sent me, Caitlin, is Erica Kirk putting an asterisk behind things saying in a healthy marriage, but they never really talk about what a healthy marriage is.
Yes.
I want to talk a little bit real quick about the MAHA movement within this summit, the Make America Healthy Again movement. You said there was a lot of MAHA merch. Why is there a connection there, and what did you see getting promoted?
Absolutely. I believe that RFK Jr. and Make America Healthy Again is really solidifying a new base in the conservative movement. It's really acting as like a gateway to MAGA, because a lot of the speakers were talking about processed foods, like you need to eat healthy, you need to grow your own vegetables, you don't need seed oils, you don't need all these things that the government is pushing onto you. And really,
it's just funny that the government's pushing seed oils on us. I was just feeling that pressure all the time.
I mean, it's no secret that Americans eat in an unhealthy way, but they're using that as an excuse to be like, see, it's because the women are in the kitchen making the meals. That's why we eat so poorly. And that's the argument from Alex Clark, who is a commentator who spoke there. And let's play a clip of her talking about the MAHA movement.
I don't know if you saw this, but just a couple days ago, Self Magazine came out with this huge spread accusing MAHA, the Make America Healthy Again movement, of wanting to put women back in the kitchen. You know what? Hell yeah. And no, to the media who's here, it's not because we want it to be the 1950s again or whatever, but it's because the kitchen is where the real revolution starts.
Caitlin, you wrote in your blog, quote, the yearning for weight loss or fretting over processed foods are emerging as pipelines for young women to adopt ultra-conservative worldviews. You talked on that a little bit, but you're seeing that as a way for young women to get roped into this culture?
Definitely. I even like talking to some girls at the YWLS. Girlhood is very attached to body image and struggling with self-esteem as you're growing up, especially in your teenage years, and fretting over the food that we consume and all the processed stuff in America, and really looking to online for like resources, like how do I lose weight? How do I eat healthy? That's where they like get you. That's where they start. You like see this seemingly harmless podcast about how to lose weight and eat healthy, like Alex Clark, her Cultural Apothecary podcast. That's how they kind of enter the world. Like, yeah.
What's the connection there? Like, what's the pipeline from that to what Charlie Kirk is preaching?
It's all like a mistrust in the American government, like mistrust in the regulatory agencies, the FDA, mistrust in what the government is telling you to eat, like the food pyramid, stuff like that. Just mistrust in the Western medical system, mistrust in vaccinations. They're all trying to poison our kids, our minds, our bodies. And then it kind of leads like, we got the answer to all that, and health is very present in the Charlie Kirk movement.
So
definitely, like
taking
a good
advantage of
quarter
people,
of the speakers. Yeah,
they're taking advantage of people who are fearful of what is being done without their knowledge, and also taking advantage of young girls who may have eating disorders and just like looping them into this cult-like environment.
Well, that's all part of it too, because, and this is what like online has given to these movements, which is an aesthetic to aspire to, and you don't have to, it's like a cult leader, but you can have 800 cult leaders, because the image of the perfect ideal is, that woman, that skinny woman with the diamond encrusted mock turtleneck necklace. Like you said, the beautiful, put together, but like very loose, feminine, but also beautiful and, perfectly coiffed and thin, right? Where everybody's thin. It's an aesthetic. And it's a ideal, right? And that's what is drawing people in these online spaces. And it's like, how do I achieve that ideal? And then you kind of follow it from there.
A couple more things I wanted to touch on before we wrap up, Caitlin. I think you said you're a fan of the art of embroidery, and that this event kind of bastardized it or perverted it in some way. Can you talk about that?
Definitely. They used an embroidery hoop as like one of their promotional flyers for YWLS, and it was like welcome home and then Young Women's Leadership Summit. And it's just very gross to me, taking this like very female dominated art that was very domestic in history and very like the woman's role. Like you got the image of the quiet wife waiting for her husband to get home, doing her little embroidery hoop, and that's the image they're trying to convey. That's what they want. They want you to be quiet, obedient, with your little embroidery hoop while your kids play around you and your husband's off working.
This movement reminds me a lot of like the manosphere. It's like the opposite, the other side of the coin of the manosphere, where men are like incel guys are being told that women are the reason for their problems. But here, it like none of those groups put the burden on men to change. It's always the women who have to change, even among this women group. So, a couple big questions for you before we get to audience questions, real quick, Caitlin. Why do so many women seem to agree with this ultra-conservative philosophy when it totally takes away their agency?
That's a great question. I would love the concrete answer to that myself. But maybe it's just easier with all the societal discontent right now, with everything awful happening in this country and around the world. It's just easier to buy into this thing that's advertising itself as like, oh, you want to have a beautiful marriage, you want to have beautiful kids, you want to be beautiful, you want to be skinny, you want to be happy. This is how you do this. And maybe it's just easier. I don't know.
I feel like the skeptical world in general has the conceit of the world is a mess. Everything is filled with gray, and the challenge of life is to work your way through it.
Yeah.
And the conservative worldview is we have the answers.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the classic, there's like nothing, again, there's nothing new about what's being tried here. It's like, it's taking, the sad part is like, it's taking a lot of like really serious problems that young women and frankly young men are experiencing today in our society, and exploiting that to push what's ultimately a political ideology here. But I think you're onto something, Caitlin. It's just like, it's really hard. Like, it's not wrong to say that one of the results of like the feminist movement, without any of the like political change necessary to support the changes to the workforce that have happened, and also the changes to like income inequality and how expensive things have gotten, now it's like, good luck to all those women at that conference subsisting on all the children you could possibly bear on one income in today's American society. I mean,
being safe while doing it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And so like, I'm not saying the answer is the answer, but it's like, if you look at this just glossy ideal that's being presented online and on stage, it is like, yeah, great. Like, it's really hard to struggle and to put yourself through college and to get advanced degrees and get a job and maintain that and date and find a husband or not find a husband, or decide whether you can prioritize having kids, or if you even want to have kids, or it is hard to like exist, and especially as a woman. So yeah, it is, and also like these challenges do exist, whether like Charlie Kirk thinks so or not, such as depression, anxiety, postpartum depression, domestic violence,
eating disorders.
Eating disorders, like all these things exist. And so yes, it would be nice to think there's like a simple answer, like if I just ordered my life in this different way, none of these problems could touch me.
What if I told you there was a book that had all the answers? No, okay.
Stop it.
All right, Caitlin, I have one last big question for you before we get to audience questions. If you could have gotten on that stage at the end of the conference, what would you have liked to have said to the thousands of young women in that audience?
Yeah, I would have loved to take the shoulders of every girl and just like, what are you doing? But if I was on stage, I would have told them that there's just so much out there in the world for them, so many options, so many possibilities of what you can be. And being a mother is such a beautiful, commendable, courageous thing, but it should always be a choice. It shouldn't be forced on you. And lastly, I would say that completely like vilifying feminism is just really disrespectful to every single woman across the country. Feminism is not just for white privileged American women. It's for every single woman across the globe that are facing atrocities every single day. And we should support feminism and what it does for every single woman and girl. And that we should be thankful that we had access to education, because many women and girls have not had education throughout history and today. So that's what I would have said.
Beautifully said, Caitlin. Do we have any audience questions, Liz?
There's a couple here, and we've talked for so long. I'll kind of keep it short. But Caitlin, curious, the people are curious, would you do it again or recommend it? I'm sure you were not
definitely.
the only anthropological observer or journalist or whatever there, obviously. What was the value?
I think I learned a lot about how this ultra-conservative base is like specifically targeting younger women, because it is a big question, like, why are so many young women buying into this? But I would not recommend it. I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone. It was very depressing. So save yourself and just watch the clips on YouTube.
Did anyone find out sort of your reason for being there, or were you totally under the radar and in character the whole time? I know you sort of had lunch with attendees and you mingled.
No, I think people definitely knew. Like, I was the only one like scribbling notes the entire thing, so I got some interesting looks from some moms and grandmothers. When I had lunch with some attendees, they definitely knew I was like dodging all their questions about why I was there. I was really just trying to turn it back onto them, but they knew I was there to learn.
Observing.
Yeah.
And finally, what do you think? I mean, whatever you think it might be, do you think the convention accomplished its goal or purposes? Like from the Turning Point perspective?
With the amount of like applause and just cheers and just the sheer like energy in the room of how happy everyone was in the audience, yeah, I would say they would feel pretty successful.
Yeesh.
That just makes me sad.
It makes me sad too.
Well, thank you so much for your report. We appreciate your hard work. Hopefully you got to get some rest after that. And yeah, we always appreciate boots on the ground coverage here at FFRF whenever we can get it. So yeah, check out Caitlin's blog on our website. And again, I'll put that in the YouTube description as well. All right. Thanks, you, Caitlin.
Thank you.
Well, that's going to wrap up this week's episode of FFRF's Ask an Atheist. You can also check out Free Thought Radio at ffrf.org/radio or wherever you get your podcasts.
And be sure to check out the latest episode of We Dissent. It's the only podcast hosted exclusively by women constitutional lawyers, including me, discussing state-church separation. Listen and subscribe to We Dissent wherever you get podcasts. Check us out online at we-dissent.org.
Finally, if you want more information about the Freedom from Religion Foundation, check out our website at ffrf.org. If you're a member already, thank you so much. If not, please join us. See you next time on FFRF's Ask an Atheist.